Good morning, and welcome to A Victorious Life Outreach Teaching Ministries Sundays online Sunday school lessons for the unchurched, church, non-churched, and church hurt. Uh, okay, I was we were he's mixing coffee. He's being a barista, and yeah, so that just I wasn't expecting it to pop on so fast. So let's see. Let's see how this goes. Let's see how it goes. Thank you. Now I need more sugar or creamer and a little more cinnamon. All right. Okay. Thank you for joining. All right. As you can see, the box to the person that's going to text to say the box is no longer on the table. Okay. So I remembered, doesn't necessarily mean that it's mail. It just means it's no longer on the table. All righty. Okay. Let's just leave it. I do solicit I do solicit your prayers. I've been fighting off whatever's baby, what's going around? Flu, colds. I've been trying to fight that off for the past week. And I have been in self quarantine these past yesterday and at school started wearing a mask and have been trying to isolate and quarantine myself because unfortunately, I am scheduled for surgery on Valentine's Day. Let me taste it. I'm scheduled for surgery on Valentine's Day, and I cannot. Uh, I gotta make that date. Yeah, I gotta do it. So, um, if I am ill or have cold, not well, cold is okay, but so while I am here, just know that I may not be up to my. We're going to believe God that I can be up to my normal, regular self, but I am pretty much in quarantine and in discomfort because those of you who are when you 2 weeks or 2 weeks before surgery or the week, yeah, week and a half or 2 weeks before surgery, you can't really take anything with acetaminophen. You can only take ibuprofen, and I'm starting to think that those two things are one is maybe stronger than the other. But yeah, so let's get it started. On last week, this is lesson 8, and on last week we talked about um, the ministry of Jesus and the calling of the disciples. And we talked about, let me just go to that last verse that we read. We talked about, we were at verse 23. And Jesus went about all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom and healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease among the people. And that's where we left off last week. Last week we left off with talking about the what he actually did. We talked about the gospel. We talked about teaching. We also talked about preaching, where if you remove the P in preaching, you have reaching. And we talked about what actually the gospel, we broke down the word gospel, and we pray that we thoroughly explained of the kingdom. And notice it did say healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease or disease. So we talked about that. Sickness, temporary, disease, chronic, long term. So, and he did that among the people. And we said on last week that Jesus was building his team and he, was calling people. So this is the title of this lesson for today is Jesus Gets His Hands Dirty. Okay. And he actually, we're going to start looking at what he actually did and the significance of how it applies to us in how it's applicable to us in today. So verse 24 says, and his fame went throughout all Syria, and they brought unto him all sick people that were taken with divers diseases and torments, and those which were possessed with devils, and those which were lunatic, and those that had the palsy, and he healed them. Now, this, we may just get to verse 20, we may just get through verses 24 and 25 because there's a lot in that. Now, I want to, let me go to my notes so I can say what I want to say about this particular lesson. So we talked about the kingdom of heaven, but here's what I wanted to say. Um, when it says, let's look at this, because it says, and his fame went throughout all Syria. When a person, first of all, fame is an attribute of fame is an attribute of popularity. You can be popular, okay? You can be popular without being famous. Popular is step one. Fame is step two. Famous is step three. So Jesus had surpassed being popular. Usually popularity is limited to your area or to your zone. And I want to say this too. I am so tired of taking emergency. I cannot take Theraflu because it's acetaminophen. I'm tired of taking emergency. I just wanted to say that. So popularity is your area, your location. It's usually limited to your community. That's popularity. Fame is just an expansion of popularity that crosses and expands out of your community and your area. So fame is, larger, it's bigger. Famous is when you pretty much everybody around the whole, we'll say the United States. Popular is, we have local celebrities and people who have designated themselves, and we designate as local celebrities. That means they're only, since I live in Tyler, we have local celebrities here in Tyler. So the only people who know them are people in Tyler because they're popular. People in Tyler, maybe Longview, Henderson, Bullard, etc. Tyler. But nobody knows them in Dallas. Nobody knows them in Houston. Nobody knows them in Austin. Nobody knows them in Lubbock. Nobody knows them in Amarillo. And I'm just naming all the, okay. So popularity, they're popular within their community. So if they were to go to Dallas and they say, you don't know me, Dallasites would be like, no, we don't know you. Okay, so that's popularity. Fame would be the state of Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arizona. So it would be that would be and maybe a few more states. So they're building their fame. Famous, all of the United States. If we're using just a simple rudimentary example. So when it says that he has the fame of him, that means he's doing the thing. He's gotten his hands dirty. And notice what it says, and his fame went throughout all of Syria. Now, let me explain why this is important for him. Why the writer had why it was divinely inspired for the writer to refer to Syria, or why it was important for Matthew to write Syria, because Syria during the time of Jesus, it was one of the greatest, biggest Roman provinces. And do you remember in one of these lessons we talked about how when the Romans took control of an area that they built road systems. So a lot of things, a lot of those structures, infrastructure had already been in place so that when Jesus started his ministry, he wasn't having to go, him and his disciples, using machetes trying to make roadways. That was already established. So the fame of him, if Syria is was one of the greatest Roman provinces at that time, then you had to understand that people from all over Syria were now coming to Jesus. And it did not matter their ethnicity, their religious affiliation, their condition. It did not matter to him. So Jesus was basically equal opportunity and affirmative action before there was equal opportunity and affirmative action. He modeled his whole life around that. And I want to press pause and say this, not because it's Black History Month, because you remember last week I said I'm Black every day, 365/12. Um, that within itself, for those viewers who watch the broadcast and who are not of, everybody has their own ethnicity, but this part here, this when it says that the fame of him spread from all over Syria, and then it lists all of the things, then you have to understand that Syria at that time was not just comprised of Jewish people. And I want us to understand that there is no evidence in the Bible that Jesus only healed, only delivered, only set free people of his persuasion, of his ethnicity. So the gospel, this gospel of hate, low-key, subliminal hate, that one race is superior to another, that another race or races are inferior to others. That's a doctrine, a belief of damnation. That is not what Jesus preached. That is not what he taught. And you know that it is evident by the words in the Bible. So if you are affiliated with a ministry, with an organization, in your circle, if you find yourself in a circle, in an organization, as a part of a ministry, that all they do is speak negatively about people of other persuasions, whether they speak in reference to their color, their socioeconomic level, their educational level, any of those things, you need to get up out of that ministry. You need to run, because what you're receiving is a slow drip of hate, a subliminal. It's like you've got an IV. This Friday, when I go in for surgery, they're going to stick an IV in my hand. And before it's time for me to go into surgery, they're going to come out and they're going to administer that. And they do that because the days of gassing people and getting them drunk, giving them liquor to go to sleep, no, we don't do that anymore. The IV is going to be put in my arm to prepare me for the anesthesia. And right before I go into surgery, the anesthesiologist is going to come out, and he or she is going to we've all, we're going to have a conversation before they do it. I'm going to tell them what works for me, what doesn't. And just before they wheel me out, they're going to come in there and stick something in the little IV, and it's going to slowly, warmly, by the time it gets here, because I have a pretty virgin system when it comes to drugs. I don't do drugs, I don't do alcohol, relatively healthy. By the time it gets to my elbow, Fabian will tell you I'm gone. By the time it really gets to my forearm, I'm dead to the world, but asleep. So and throughout the surgery, the anesthesiologist will be sitting there providing monitoring, and if I need more, then if the surgery takes longer, then that's what he or she is going to do. But I use that example because sometimes people in our society, we find ourselves once again, I'm not going to say in a climate of hate, but we find ourselves once again in a climate where it's kind of like football teams. I'm trying to use as simple examples as possible. Chapel Hill. I love Chapel Hill High School. Our eldest graduated from Chapel Hill. My husband did 13 years down there as the police, campus police, safety, security, etc. With a gun and a Texas peace officer license. Okay, not just security with a flashlight mace and a stick. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's another level. It's kind of like when Chapel Hill, when they won the state championship, and they were before that they were going to the semis, and they won the state championship. For those 2 years, Chapel Hill top dog like they were this year. Great football team, amazing football program. But unfortunately, there was some time in there where they weren't doing as well. You know, so you couldn't talk as much trash because they weren't doing well, and that's the climate that we're in. Just because the person that you wanted to win or won, uh that's not an excuse for you to reveal. If you're a hateful person, this is not the time for you to walk in the truthfulness of hate, because hate hurts. But hate hurts the person who hates. It hates them even more. Did you know that hate studies have proven that hate ages you? Hate makes you susceptible to a lot of illness. It ushers in mental illness. So the energy that's put towards disliking and hating people, um, you're killing, pretty much killing yourself. So I always use this as an example to say that the beginning ministry of Jesus, he set the pattern for what exactly he was going to do. And when we get to Matthew chapter 4 verse 24, and it says that his fame, okay, when it says that his fame uh, uh, went throughout all Syria, followed by what he did, he was not he did not show favoritism. And I think this is to the viewers who again, I think we should have racial pride in our ethnicity, but not to the extent to where it that becomes all consuming, to where we just think we walk around, our very existence, is superior. Because I think the dynamics of the world is changing. And I think it has been proven that every culture, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, has benefited from other cultures. And that may be through music, art, it may be through knowledge, wisdom, it may be through style, it may be, just a myriad of things. So I did want to say that that Jesus starts his ministry. His ministry is being founded upon equality. And I think that's something that we really need to stop and think about. If every time you open your mouth and it is to speak derogatory, make derogatory marks towards people of the opposite color of you, be it black or white, if it is to make negative stereotypes, if it is to reinforce through verbal conversation and mental thought, the derogatory thoughts and remarks towards particular races, it's not them, it's you. You need to look introspectively and say, why do I not like this color of people? Why? What did the people, what did they as a people do to me? Now, I've had negative experiences with people of all colors, okay? But that did not make me, that those experiences did not make me not embrace still remaining friends with people of different ethnicities, colors, etc. So when we loop back to this, I want you to understand that Syria was one of the, during the time, again repeating, during the time of Jesus, was one of the greatest Roman provinces in that part. And it was, again, it was close to what we now refer to as modern day Palestine, etc. And people from all over Syria, again, they were coming to Jesus. And I think what's important for us to know is that, look at what it said. They were coming to Syria to hear Jesus. They weren't coming to get benefits. They weren't coming to be counted. Okay. They were coming to hear about him. Now, moving forward, Syria is here's how we know the Bible works. Everything works in cohesion. And I put down here, Paul was converted on the road to Damascus, and the first Gentile church was founded at Antioch. So, and where did all this take place? In Syria. So, excuse me. So I think it's important for us to that was the significance of that. And look at, so after his fame spread, and it speaks about Syria, look at the people that they were bringing to him. They were bringing him all sick people that were taken with divers. Divers just means different diseases and torments. And I want to stop there because it says all sick. It says all sick, but then it goes in and it specifically starts to list the types of people that they were bringing to Jesus. So when it says they brought unto him all sick people, that means everybody. If they had an issue, find Jesus. Hey, what? There's no help for you, and are you tired of this? Okay, there's a man. So they would find Jesus. So it starts with all sick, and then it begins to list each specific thing. So diseases. Do you remember last week we said that sick is temporary? This colds, flus, viruses, those are temporary. Okay. Some diseases are permanent, or disease typically there's a permanence about diseases. Now some diseases that they suffered from back then, like we'll say back in the day, influenza was considered a disease, but it went from being a disease to an illness, because once medication started to change, then a lot of these things that the people in here were suffering from, it would not be considered a disease, it would be considered an illness. But the scriptures references that there were people who had short term, they were sick short term, or they had a long term disease. And notice it says, and torments. So that means not only was Jesus healing and meeting the needs of people who had physical issues, physical concerns such as, illnesses, diseases, but also spiritual, because when it speaks about torments, that's in the mind, that's psychological. So he was healing the things that the person couldn't see. A person had mental illness or a person was tormented by spirits. The only way you could see that, if that person was sitting there quietly, not making a sound, not making a noise, you would not know that the person had mental illness. It was only after they started manifesting or doing physical actions or saying things inappropriately or acting in an inappropriate manner that you would realize something wrong with this person. You know, I think an example of that is sometimes when you can see a person who looks like they're on the up and up, and you engage in a conversation with them, and somewhere at the beginning or middle of that conversation you realize the community in your head says, this something's not right, something's wrong with this person, this person's not right, and then you either adjust your conversation, or depending on the intensity of the conversation, you figure out a way to exit yourself from the conversation. So, and it says, and those which were possessed with devils. Now, I do want to make a point about this. So you had people who were tormented, that's mental, but then you had people who were possessed, that's spiritual. So he was healing and delivering and setting free three types of people: those who had physical issues, mental issues, and spiritual issues. And he was doing that for everybody. Now, notice it says, and those which were lunatic. So this is interesting to me, and always has been. And I hope that I give it justice, because when you look at verse 24, what you actually see, you see the types of, this is his ministry in a nutshell. Every miracle, this speaks, that verse 24, Matthew 4 and 24, speaks to every miracle that he will perform, other than the raising of the dead. It speaks to every miracle. So at the beginning of of his ministry, you see the pattern, you see the structure, you see the organization for his ministry. And I want to loop you back to some lessons that we had when he was at the very beginning, because remember I made a comment about process. Jesus followed the process for success. First of all, you know, he had to be tempted, all right, or he was baptized, right? So he was baptized, step one. He was tempted, step two. Step three is he went to the synagogue and proclaimed what he was going to do, so and he started calling people, step three, or he professed what he was going to do. Step four, he started calling people, and now this is step five. And this is going to be his the miracles and the ministry. And he has one final step, one final earthly step, step 6, which will be the crucifixion, dying on the cross. And incidentally, the number 6 is assigned to mankind. So the last thing he's going to do is die for man. The 7th step, when all of this is ended, when the judgment and all of that, he's going to present all of this back to God, and it will be complete. So right now, he's on step 5. That's why he was only physically here for 3 years. So he's on step 5. And I think that's important for us to understand, because when you look at this verse, that's everybody. That's his ministry. That's the healing ministry. That's the delivering ministry, physical, mental, spiritual. Those are the areas that he's going to address. And I think this part here, notice it says, and those which were lunatic and those that had the palsy, and he healed them. Now, here's what I want to say. Healing, deliverance is a part of healing. Healing is a part of deliverance. Once he has healed you, once Jesus heals you, or once he's delivered you, he wants you to walk in the healing of deliverance. Once he has delivered you from whatever he delivered you from, he heals you. That means every area in your life that, once salvation comes in, and once he heals you, or he delivers you and sets you free, he wants you to walk in your deliverance. In essence, he wants you to walk in your healing. So when it says the lunatic, those were the people that, because of trauma, and we hear that word a lot now. Casey Acock and I did a video on trauma a few weeks back. But when you hear of lunatic and lunacy, a lunatic is a person 9 times out of 10 that has experienced some form of abuse and trauma, a high level of abuse and trauma that has left them scarred. It's like they can't snap out of it. They didn't have the mental, because of the abuse, because of the trauma, they didn't have the mental capacity to just snap out of it, to adjust and go on. They weren't able to do that. And then it says, and those that had the palsy. Palsy is a neurological disease that manifests itself physically, that starts to constrict and restrict the muscles. So sometimes people we call it Bell's palsy, there, because of the nerves. Like I said, it affects the nervous system. So their mouth will look like it's twisting, and sometimes their facial expressions, the mouth will start going to the side. They're not having a stroke or anything. It's just a neurological disease, and sometimes they can maintain it with proper medication, diet, etc. So, but they didn't know this back then. Palsy was not. It had nothing to do with spiritual things or lunacy or anything like that. It was a neurological disease, and sometimes it's some people have said that it could be in the genetic, like the DNA, or you can be genetically predisposed for it. Now, I haven't did enough research on palsy to know all the stuff, but from a biblical standpoint, I have. So that's why palsy is in there, because it's a neurological disease that just restricts and constricts the muscle. It doesn't mean that the person, there was anything psychologically wrong with them. And for palsy to be in there, it meant that was probably the dominant disease of the day, because all of the things that he's mentioning here, in the writer puts in verse 24, like we said earlier, that was the ministry of Jesus. So that's why palsy is in there. And notice I read that the Bible says that, and he healed them. He didn't ask, how did you get yourself in this situation? What happened to you? The only time Jesus will ask anybody, the only time Jesus will ask anybody, if memory serves me correct, 2 questions, is the man at the pool of Bethsaida, when he said, do you want to be made whole? he asked him, do you want to be healed? Basically he was saying, do you want to be healed? Do you want to be set free? Do you want to be complete? And the man that was living in the tombs, that when Jesus said, who are you? And the spirit, he wasn't talking to the man. He knew the man had been infiltrated by demonic spirits. So when he said to the man, he asked the man, who are you? And the man said, I'm Legion, we are many. That man was one. That was the spirit, that evil spirits speaking out. So again, see how my example, the man that was at the pool, he had a disease. The man that was at in the tomb, he was possessed with spirits that basically had turned him into a lunatic, because when you study the time period, 9 times out of 10, and the man responded with Legion, that man probably had been in the military or had seen seen horrible things, that way people were dying or died or tortured. So, but that's another lesson. But I always think about those two things whenever I read this verse. Verse 25, and there followed him great multitudes of people from Galilee. Galilee, remember, we said that was his headquarters, and from Decapolis, and from Jerusalem, and from Judea, and from uh, beyond Jordan. So everybody was following Jesus. And just in the description of the including of those places, that lets you know that Jews and Gentiles were following Jesus. It wasn't just the Jewish community. Because honestly, the Jewish community, the religious crowds, they were trying to kill the man. They would reach a point where they tried to kill the man, but everybody else, they were very supportive of his ministry. So I want to speak on that real quick before we go to go to Matthew chapter 5. I wanted to say that when it said that he healed them, and I apologize, I got my daughter's thing. But when I said that he healed them, I want us to understand that moving forward, that the healing that Jesus was providing, it was spiritual healing. Those that were possessed with devils, the lunatic, that was mental healing. All right. And the physical healing, those that had palsy, those three examples. So when you think about that, those are the three areas in our life that Jesus heals: physically, mentally, and spiritually. And I want to say that physical healing isn't always about you having a disease or a physical ailment. It's not always about that. He can heal us in our finances. He can heal us, in not only our bodies, but he can heal us physically in our finances. He can heal us in our careers, from things that we can measure physically. So don't just limit. Don't just think, just because, well, there's nothing physically wrong with me. Okay, if there's nothing physically wrong with you, your finances okay? Because if your finances aren't okay, then he can heal you in your finances. And how does he do that? By healing you mentally. Do you spend a lot of money? Do you just go out and do whatever you want to do? Do you think poorly of yourself? Do you have low self-esteem? Do you have no direction? Are you lazy? Are you a procrastinator? That's mental. When you start discovering different patterns in your life, and I want you to hear me close when I say this, when you start discovering different patterns in your life that are subpar, that are not up to standard, then you need to ask God to heal you in that area. We'll say, for me, using myself as an example, this is a sickness, this is being spread. All right. It's being spread. So asking the Lord to heal me from this, I haven't really asked or prayed for healing for this cold or this fight, trying to fight off this flu. I haven't, I don't have the flu. And you know why I don't have the flu? I have whatever little bug is going around. I didn't get, I'm not getting the full effect of that because I'm taking a proactive approach spiritually and physically. My husband bought Theraflu. He bought Emergency. Our son, he had this little crud a few weeks ago or week before last. And my husband said, Lori, he bought the Emergency. He bought the Theraflu. So even though I didn't have any signs of anything, I still drank Emergency. I've been drinking Emergency for about 2 weeks. But when the son came home and he was complaining about being achy, and I drank the Emergency, I did what Dr. Fabian said. I got I drank the Emergency, then I drank the Theraflu nighttime. So I was buffering it. I was trying to be proactive. So I really have not asked the Lord to heal me because I know this is a temporary sickness. Okay, this is temporary. Um, but when I go for surgery, I have been praying that everything will turn out fine for surgery because I'm going to be at the mercy of whoever has the scalpel in their hands or whoever's sitting there with the anesthesia. So, and I'm going to be in a vulnerable, whenever you go into surgery, you're in a vulnerable state. So that's what I'm saying, that I have prayed for that. So when you think about the healing, you don't want to just limit that to something of a physical nature. So when we look back to verse 25, the impact of what uh, what Jesus was doing was being felt. It was great. It was being felt all over. And I think that's important for us to understand that as preachers, as pastors, as leaders, are we as dedicated to the people as Christ was? For those of you who are unchurched, non-church, and church hurt, are you as spiritually concerned about your spiritual well-being than you are about the storyline? Are you as concerned for you unchurched? Uh, are you really as concerned about your spiritual well-being as opposed to your physical rest, relaxation, and your money? Or are you as concerned spiritually about those things as you are, are you as concerned about that? Those of you that say, well, the church hurt me, has that become more important than your spiritual well-being? Because Jesus, he was there healing all of those things. He was addressing those. And I think it's important for us to ask ourselves, especially the unchurched, non-church, and church hurt, is my spiritual life more important than whatever is preventing me from seeking him to lead me to a ministry where I can not only get what I need, but I can also be a help? So that's something that you really want to ask yourself. So when we get, I'm sorry, emergency. When we get to Matthew chapter 5, he says, it reads, and seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Matthew chapter 5 is the beginning, or it has the Sermon on the Mount. Now, here's what I want to say about that. I'm not going to get into verses 3. I'm not going to be able to do verses 3 through 12 this week. We'll pick that up because I think I need to go lay down. But I want to make this point before we close it out. It says, and seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain. Now remember, we just read where he gave a description of who he was healing and all of those things, all right? And the types of people. Physically, he was healing them physically, mentally, and spiritually, all right? But look at what happens when we get to Matthew chapter 5. He goes up into a mountain, all right? And what is interesting, it says that when he saw the multitudes, when Jesus looked around and he realized, wait a minute, this is a lot of people. Okay. It was a lot. Thank you. I was struggling last night with that grandbaby. Um, when he saw the multitudes, I want you to look very closely at that verse, because sometimes we read this the wrong way. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came to him. So Jesus looks around, he sees all of these people, and he goes to an elevated place so that his voice can carry. This again, he's setting the standard, he's setting the pattern. So he goes to the mountain and he sits down, and when he sits down, he gathers himself, he organizes himself. Then his disciples come up and they sit down, and he begins to open his mouth and teach them. Now, here's what I want you to know about that. He originally his main purpose was to teach the disciples. But in the teaching of the disciples, everybody else heard it. Okay? And it became a sermon. It was prior to that, there were nobody there. It would have just been a teachable moment for the disciples. But because there was a multitude, and Jesus recognized that there was a multitude of people, he elevated himself so that he could teach the people. And I want you to know that that's important, because he taught them, all right? So he's healing them, but then he's teaching them. And with my last few minutes, I really want to stop there to say this. When God heals you, when he delivers you, when he sets you free, when he does whatever it is that you've been praying and asking him to do, he's not going to leave you hanging. He's going to teach you if you are open for instruction. And by that I mean, he's going to make sure that you have all of the tools that you need in order for you not to get in that situation again. You know, it's easy as a leader, church leader, a pastor, etc., to say, you get in a prayer line and you get prayer and you feel instantly healed, delivered, set free, etc. It's one thing for you to go home and get in your car and not be forewarned that the goal of the enemy is to get you distracted and lead you back into the bonds and the chains of brokenness in whatever area you felt broken. That is why, to the unchurched, nonchurched specifically, and your non-church, unchurched specifically, that's why it is important that even if you are not affiliated and have not aligned yourself with a ministry, it is still important for you to pray every day. It is still important for you to read the scriptures and the word for yourself every day. It is important for you to take a scripture, a passage, and meditate on that verse. It is important for you to acknowledge and recognize the hand of God in your life, at work in your life, even when it feels like the situations are negative. It is important for in all your ways to acknowledge him and ask him for direction. Those things are important to the unchurched and the non-church, even if you are not a part of a ministry. Because as we said, those are just staples in our walk with him. To the church hurt, the same rule applies to you. But I've got to give you another layer. You cannot allow the enemy to have a playground in your mind and allow you to start thinking and wholeheartedly believing that nobody is right. All of these preachers and pastors are the same. They just want your money. They're not living it, and they're not. You to the church hurt. You cannot allow your experience to stop you from hearing and receiving the messengers that he's sending into your life. And sometimes the messengers are not always preachers and teachers. It could be your coworker, your spirit-filled coworker. It could be your neighbor, your child could even say little things. Sometimes when I'm at work, our youngest will send me Bible questions because he's wondering about something, and he'll say, "Hey, what does that mean?" So as a parent, as not just, well, as a parent, I'm responding because my child is communicating with me, but I'm responding based on the fact that he's asking me something about his for that the spirit that the Lord is dealing with him about. So I can't respond like a parent. I have to respond like a church leader, pastor, etc., a Bible teacher. I have to respond that way because I don't want this kid to end up being hurt like some of you church hurt. So that's what I'm saying. To the church hurt, I said what I said to the non-church and unchurched, but to the church hurt, you have to make sure that you are doing what I said to them: reading, praying, fasting, meditating, etc. But you also have to make sure that you are not allowing, you have to protect your mind, protect your thoughts, because the enemy, oh, hold on, let me say this. There's only a few people I break for, okay? Girl, keep praying for me. I have to have surgery. I won't be there next Sunday either because I'm having surgery on Valentine's Day. This is a pajama top, okay? So I'm sitting here in pajamas. This is garland that, with my creative self, uh, I just wrapped it around. It says love, Stephanie. L-O. The heart is O. Look at V. V is down here. And then we have it. Look, Lori E. Hey, Yularia. Anyway, so thank you. Please pray for me. I need one ASAP. Which one? The shirt, the pajamas, or this? Which one? You tell me which one. I got you, girl. I got you. Um, so see, I digress. So that's what I'm saying to the church hurt. Oh, you okay? I'm gonna find you one. I found this at home in January. Uh, you know what? I can let you borrow this one because I'll let you borrow it Thursday, and you can wear it Friday because I won't be wearing none of this on Friday. I'll be a dog too. Okay. Notice what it says. So I was saying before Stephanie started hitting me up, the fashion queen. Um, I was saying that church hurt people, you cannot allow yourself to become distracted by your thoughts. You can't allow yourself to do that. You cannot. Because if you allow yourself to do that, then you're never going to accept when he leads you to the right ministry, or he leads the right ministry to you. You're never going to accept that. And I think the Sunday school lessons, like we say, to the unchurched, non-church, and church hurt, while everybody's, the three of y'all categories are not going to church, the at the beginning of the ministry, you see how Jesus is still speaking to the three people, all right? The three people, the three types, the unchurched, non-church, and church hurt. But here's the negative. It's the people in the church hurt, that are going to fight him the most. And I want us to understand that sometimes the biggest fighters against the organization that we call the church are the people that have experienced church in a negative way. And that's what I'm saying to the church hurt. Don't be the person that, because of your negative experience with the ministry, don't you be the person that takes it upon yourself to categorize and label and stereotype all churches. Don't do that, because your experience is your experience. Even if the person sitting next to you has experienced the same thing, it's your experience. It's your experience. It is unique to you. Now, and I know that may need some clarity, because it may sound confusing. So allow me to say this. When I say, if the people sitting to the left and to the right, if we are now all unchurched and the same thing happened to us, each one of us is going to interpret that the same but different. All we're going to say, that happened to me, they did that to me. But how you perceive it and how you take it is going to be different. Well, what did you do, girl? I just sat there, I didn't say anything. What did you do? Oh, I went and I talked to the pastor. What did you do, girl? I went on Facebook, I went on Twitter or X, I went on Snapchat, I went on Instagram, I did post. The same situation, just different actions based on interpretations. So I want the church hurt to know, I'm not nullifying your experience. But remember, at the beginning of these lessons, we have always said to the unchurched, before you categorize and label other ministries as the same, using the word all, before you start doing that, look introspectively and say, okay, did I add, am I adding, did I add to the confusion of this? You know, what did I do? Did I allow myself to focus less on Christ and more on the leader? Was I enamored and mesmerized by the preaching style? Did I like the new? What happened? How did I allow myself to get in that situation? How did I allow myself to not take my Bible to church and write down notes and cross-reference when I went home? Did I not take my trusted cell phone and put a Bible app on there? Did I not follow along so that and have notes in my whatever? Did I not when I left, did I not make a voice reminder to myself to, hey, the preacher said this, look this up, get a good understanding of this before you run? Did I do that? Or was I, again, mesmerized and enamored by the person, by the charismatic personality of the person? That's for the unchurched. They were taking my money, and they were okay, were there guns involved? Were there knives involved? Was there bodily threats involved in the taking of your money? Because that sounds like a police report. That sounds like somebody should have called the police. How were they taking your money? Well, they convinced me that if I give them this, okay, there's the church hurt. I'm talking to y'all. That's the caveat to that. You got so side focused, your focus was sidetracked and distracted that your focus were on those individuals. You were mesmerized by them. You were captivated by them. So that whenever they said, give me this, give me that, you walking in the mesmerized state that you were with them, you were starstruck. It was easy for them to coerce you out of your money willingly. So you can't make the claim that every ministry is like that. You remember last week I said that where God guides, He provides, and if it's His will, He will foot the bill, and that there are ministries that are not they're still going to go on whether you give money or not. And you remember I used the example of having to go to the Beto Men's Prison for those services, and that last Sunday. And you know what happened? There was an individual that Cash App, when I said the state is not giving me a white envelope, that I was paying for my own gas and was going to stop by the gas station or Sonic and get my meal of cheese sticks and small vanilla Coke or Coke with vanilla. There was an individual that Cash Apped. I never said give me money. I never said the ministry can't go on if you don't give money. I never said that. What I said was, I trust God. Where He guides, He will provide. And I continue to believe that wholeheartedly. You know, if the donations that I have asked for have been to do things that benefit other people, it's not to pay the mortgage here. It's not to build my business. It's not for that. You know, and as I said, when that individual sent the money, it went towards gas for the minivan that I had to drive because I was in a rental because somebody rear-ended my car. So God provided. It was His will for me to go there. So He foot the gas bill. So I didn't have to come out of pocket. Was I going to go anyway? Yes, I was going to go. I was going to pay out of pocket, but it was His way of reassuring me that this is what I have for you to do. So that's what I'm saying to the church hurt. Let's get somewhere and sit down and let's stop pushing that narrative, that unsolicited narrative. If you were at a ministry that took advantage of you, on behalf of all of the church leaders and congregations around the world, I want to say, I am so sorry. We are so sorry that that happened to you. We are praying for you. We are praying with you. We are sorry that that happened. We are sorry that that ministry was not fiscally responsible to count up the cost prior to starting the ministry. We apologize on their behalf. We apologize that that ministry used charlatan, sleight of hand, trickery, and verbal manipulation, and they took advantage of you spiritually in order to get something from you physically. We apologize on their behalf. We apologize to the church hurt. We apologize for the members that were maybe misconstrued some of your actions, some of your words. Maybe that ministry did not have a new member class that was taught, and maybe that ministry didn't do wellness checks on the people in the pews. And by wellness checks, I mean at different points throughout the quarter, just say, hey, we're having an all church meeting where they reminded people that we follow at this church, at this ministry, we follow the pattern of Christ. We do not alienate and isolate when people come in. We don't need everybody trying to pastor them in the pews. We maybe they didn't have a quarterly wellness check. Maybe the pastor or the heads of the ministry, maybe maybe they inadvertently sided with the person that was really guilty, and you look bad. I want to apologize we apologize on behalf of the ministry that hurt you. Okay, we apologize. Uh, we apologize for that. We are not saying that you were guilty, and we're not saying that that ministry is guilty. We're simply saying that you're hurt for a reason, and that may be a valid reason, but don't allow that level of that hurt to get you to become like the people in the Bible that fought Jesus. And we're going to discover he was being fought on all sides, but the people that fought him the most were the people inside the church and the people who had experienced I don't even know if that's a word, religiosity, or and if it's not a word, let me explain what I mean. The people who knew the protocols for church, if I can say that. So I apologize to the church hurt. It's 2025. We don't want you walking around here still holding on to hurt from 10, 15, even 5 or 2 or 3 years ago. We don't want you to do that. We want you to actively do what the scripture says. Pray for them. Pray for those who despitefully use you. Pray for them. I'm not saying for you to pray prayers of vindication. I'm not here for you to pray prayers of blessing. I'm just here for you to pray prayers. Lord, I thank you for my time there. I thank you that when I went there, that ministry met my need. So Lord, for the people that are there, please allow that ministry to continue to meet their needs. That's it. Lord, fix them, deal with them. No, that's witchcraft and voodoo. And I've said this before. When people blatantly do me wrong, either to my face or subtly, that should be subtly in Texas. I never pray, Lord, fix them, get them. I never pray that. The first prayer I pray, this is to the church hurt. The first prayer I pray is, Lord, if I was at fault, I repent. I apologize. I'm sorry. I pray that. I look at myself first. How did you get yourself in this situation? And if I'm at fault, then I pray that prayer. Lord, forgive me. If I'm not at fault, I still pray. Lord, I know that I'm right. I know what my intentions were. Lord, if the individual or the individuals perceive my intentions as wrong, Lord, please provide them with clarity. Lord, open up their understanding so that they will see that it was in love. It was not out of jealousy, anger, and none of those emotions. And I also pray, Lord, give me an opportunity to provide that person with clarity and understanding. But if I know that the people have blatantly did me wrong and are blatantly out here acting woolly boy, because you know what, that prayer, I said, Lord, I thank you that you will vindicate me in this matter. Lord, I thank you. This is when I know people have blatantly misconstrued my actions to other people, when they've gone behind my back and lied, when they have tried to set traps. Yeah, it's the same prayer, but it's a different word. I say, Lord, avenge me. Vindicate me. I thank you for vindication. I thank you for avenging me. And where did I get that verbiage? From the little widow woman that went before the unjust judge. She wanted the judge to avenge her of her adversaries. So I'm like, Lord, avenge me. Lord, I thank you for vindicating me. Now, vindication and avenging, it may take some years. It may take some months. That may not happen in a day. But you know what I don't allow the enemy to do, church hurt people? I don't allow the enemy to let me keep dwelling on that situation. Anytime that situation comes up and I share it, it's for the helping of somebody else, but it's never done out of anger. It's never out of spite, and it's only at the urging of the Spirit, because that's old news. So the church hurt people, that's what we want you to know on today. We want you to know it's time for you to let that go. It's time for you to look introspectively and ask God to help you. It's also time for you to stop running around here with that old narrative that all preachers are the same. No, we're not. All pastors and church leaders are the same. No, we're not. Some of us are, in fact, cut from a different cloth. Some of us are, in fact, here to do what God has called us to do, independent of whether or not you accept it. We're still going to love you. We're still going to pray for you. We're still going to care for you, whether you align yourself with the ministry that we had or not. And I think it's safe to say those of us that are genuinely concerned about the kingdom, of doing the kingdom work, the ones who have boots on the ground, we love you and we are concerned about you, but we're cut from a different cloth. We're not like the people that have hurt you. Do we have the potential to become that way? Yes, everybody has the potential to become that way, because abuse of power, it crosses all barriers or borders. But are we that way? No, we're not. So that's what I'm saying to the unchurched, to the non-church, and or that's what I'm saying to the church hurt, to the non-church and the unchurched. Let this be the year that you say, you know what, God, as we've said before, God has gifted me with all of these gifts, talents, and abilities. I'm going to lead me to a ministry where I will be able to learn and grow in, where they are teaching the word, preaching and teaching the word of God. Because remember we said last week, preaching is just reaching without the P. We pray that you will ask the Lord to lead you there, lead you to a ministry where you can where you can not only grow spiritually, but you can also grow naturally. Well, you know what? I think it's time for me to press this little red rectangle over here that says "End Live Video." As we always say, if you have Christ, you're already a winner. If you have the Spirit of the living God, you can face any challenge life throws your way. You can live a victorious life. God bless you.